your mother, your father, your sons, your children, your nieces, your nephews, your aunts. Everyone will die. It is a part of life. It in a certain capacity, death is what powers life. People die and sacrifice themselves for the sake of others so they can grow and experience. Dying well is living a life that when you die, it is as if you didn't. Because you have put so much of yourself into the world that even your actions and your words do have value. They have a materiality to them. That you've lived so fully and so completely that even when you die, it is as if you had not. Because the actions and the investments that you made in this world continue to inspire and give direction and guidance in life to others. Right? Not dying well is dying, and it is as if you have never lived, because your mark on this planet was something that was rushed to be forgotten, or you did things in this world that actually were a negative, or my shaman Shep don't like to use the words negative and positive, productive, and more so destructive. So make sure that you die well. Dying starts the moment that you are born, meaning that you should be preparing for your death from the day that you're born, meaning that you should be living, because the way to prepare for death is to live, and to live fully. In relation to the brother Chadwick Boseman's situation, make sure that you are up to date on he died from colon cancer, stage 4, which in some cases can be very much so at least treated or detected early. It's some of it's a genetic thing, other parts of it are lifestyle things, and if you're pre-genetically disposed, sometimes the lifestyle decisions can affect the cancer itself, sometimes maybe not, but it's to give yourself the best chance. So even more so now, make sure that you're checking your diet, that you're making sure that you're not smoking, make sure that you're curbing certain behaviors, make sure you're sleeping, make sure you're active, make sure you're not sitting down all goddamn day. And just overall holistically, part of living the full life is taking care of your body and being aware of your body. And even if you recognize that you're in a terminal condition or in a terminal state, that becomes the opportunity for you, if you weren't living life to the fullest, to live life to the fullest. There's this great song. It's one of my favorite songs of all time, and I think it's a great moment or a great thing for people to listen to, no matter what type of background you're from. I think you'll find inspiration in it, and it's one of the few songs that I actually think works in terms of making people feel better or getting a better understanding of their life. And of course, it's a country western song. That's right, it's country western. But it's a song by Tim McGraw, and it's called Live Like You Were Dying. And I suggest that you all take a little time out of your day if you're feeling certain ways and give that song a little holler. Go and check it out. It's called Live Like You Were Dying, and it's by Tim McGraw, and it's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's all that. So I think you'll be surprised at the way the song may touch you, especially in light of everything that's going on today. It's one of those joints. It's like, oh, this is dope. And it contextualizes what I'm saying in a very entertaining and powerful way. It's about a guy who's being diagnosed with cancer, and then what he does in the face of that, and it is absolutely phenomenal. It's the other piece. So make sure that you do the technical things that you would need to do. The other side of the equation, this story, okay? So there's this great story. And then there's a few people who hit me up in a certain level of questioning and despair of the times in which we live. As if people have this fuck 2020 mentality. And that's what you see. You look and all you see is fuck 20. Man, this shit happened and that happened. And now there's an earthquake and now there's an asteroid and now it's this, now it's that. And people are really feeling a certain way. Some very strong people are very much so in questioning and doubting certain realities. And I just want to remind you all about something. And I'll do it with this story. And then we'll investigate and talk about, maybe answer some questions. So here's the story, okay? A samurai warrior and a monk. And a samurai warrior, of course, samurais in that day and age, remember that samurais weren't just martial arts masters. They were actually like elites, like social elites. They were a social class. And even when they weren't fighting or having to fight on the battlefield, they had high rank in society. They were well-paid kind of civil servants. They had a lot of sway and a lot of power. The reason the samurai sword is called a samurai sword is because at one point only samurais were allowed to actually legally carry samurai swords. The same way that in certain cases, police at one point were only legally allowed to carry guns, etc. But anyway, gave them a sense of authority and power. And so samurais were used to getting whatever they wanted. Okay, so that's just to understand that part first. So anyway, the samurai goes to this monk. And in a Zen monk, kind of sitting on the ground, chilling, devoid of all things happening. Samurai warrior comes up to him, and in a very like demanding, commanding, kind of like arrogant, forceful, authoritarian voice, he says to the monk, he says, "Tell me about heaven and hell. Right? Teach me about heaven and hell." And the monk kind of looks up at him and says, "Why should I teach you about heaven and hell? Like you're drunk, you're dirty, even your sword looks a little unkempt. You don't look like you deserve to learn about these things. Why should I teach a boisterous asshole, bitch ass nigga like you about heaven and hell? Get the fuck out of my face." Just to level up the language so you get, the intensity of the monk's reaction. And samurai, he's taken aback. He's like, this mother, I can't believe this little punk ass, right? I'm a samurai. You know who I am? Samurai pulls out his sword. It's like, how dare you insult me? I'm a samurai. I'm finna fuck you up, little homie. And he goes to cut down the monk. The monk stops, looks him in the eyes, and he says, "That's hell." Samurai kind of taken aback again, but this time realizing like, oh shit. All this rage and anger and insult and wanting to destroy, that is hell. And in recognition of what the monk had just did, the samurai drops to his knees and kind of prostrates and grovels in front of the monk. Like begging for his forgiveness and, again, asking, And at that moment, when the samurai falls to his knees, the monk says, "That's heaven." So it's a classic story. They teach it in business schools. They'll teach it in, it's in popular culture. It's called a koan, which are these Buddhist stories that they tell to get you to think about things in a way. That's why I kind of want you all to listen to this Tim McGraw record, "Live Like You Were Dying," because it is somewhat of a modern koan for us for these days. Music acts as that, and it's rare that songs will do that, but there are some that out there, and that is one. Now, this story gets interpreted specifically on that. It's very easy to understand. This idea of rage and anger, destruction being hell, and then, recognizing that you are in the wrong and seeking forgiveness and seeking humility and humbleness is heaven. And it kind of stops there. It literally stops there in a lot of the stories. The monk says, "That's heaven," and the story's over. The end. And it's up to you to reflect. Now, one interpretation of the story, which is my own interpretation of the story, is that yes, the koan is about heaven, and yes, it's about hell, but it's about something else. It's about life, right? Because heaven and hell are these far off places, right? Or in the story, it's getting the samurai to recognize that heaven and hell is determined by you, right? It's within you, and it is not this far off thing or this thing down below and these things up high. It is actually nestled within you. But the story still speaks about these two different points, right? It's hell is this way of behaving, and then heaven is that way of behaving, which are these opposites. But in between that is life. So if you look at the heavens as being up there and the hells being down there, in the middle is where you are, right? And one of the cores of the story is that this balance. And life is that balance between heaven and hell. You'll have anger and fear and despair, and you'll have joy and contentment and happiness. But they happen at the extremes, right? Your daily life is very much so neutral, right? You're very much so in the middle path. And you have these moments that pull you off that middle path into this, or pull you off into that middle path down into that. And it's a sign that life is a mixture of all these things together. And without these things, you would not have this thing that we call life. That is life, is the essence of life. The essence of life is chaos and calm, constantly battling to and fro, interrogated. In this case, the winds, the hurricanes. In one case, they're calming breezes. The other side, they're destructive forces that rip down houses. But they're all powered and instigated by the sun, right? The sun heating up the air, heating up the water, and then causing hot air to rise and cool air to come down. And then that interplay, that balance, that working creates storms and cool breezes and all the effects of that. And in those moments, you want to live in a space on the coast to enjoy those moments of calmness. Those moments of calmness will come at the price of the chaos, which is soon to come. And it is really how we live, embrace, and manifest within those two environments. Yes? And those two possibilities, those two potentials. That's life. Living in this world is chaos, but it is also joy. Right? It is birth and it is also death. Right? It is when we look at the world and we feel like so much is being taken on the other side, there's also so much being given. And it is up to you to be able to recognize the gives as well as the takes. I was watching this thing yesterday about a woman and her family. They interviewed her about Louisiana, and some of the coastal western parts of Louisiana are totally destroyed. And the woman, she was in the streets, and they came up and gave her the microphone and the interview, and she was just. He was like, what happened? And she was like, for the first few moments of her talking was just, we had and we lost everything, right? She kind of went into that. Lost her house, lost everything. But then in that same sentence, literally within the same space of time, the same 10 seconds or whatever that she was on camera, she went from neutral to recognizing that she had lost everything to then coming back up and saying, but we made it. So she was literally in tears from the breakdown, and you have that emotional response. And then she comes out of that and says, but we made it. I made it, my husband made it, and my 2 dogs made it. Right? And it's not about trying to rationalize destruction and lie to yourself. That's not the goal, to get you to lie that things that are destroyed are still, here. You should still feel happy about that. Have your range of emotions. It's not to lie to yourself. It's to fully embrace that is a part of the world in which we live in. Not the culture. It's not a choice. The nature in which we live. And at a certain point, we do have a handle on controlling that. And in other cases, we do not. And there's work being done to give some people more control over the circumstances that we were naturally unable to control. I don't know if any of y'all watched the Neuralink demo that they did yesterday with Elon Musk, this company with the implant, which isn't new. There's a guy with an implant who's considered to be the world's first cyborg back from a while ago, and he has an implant in his brain with a cable that sticks out, an antenna, and he's able to see in like infrared and all kinds of crazy stuff. And his friends can call it, he has a cell phone number, and they can call directly to his brain. But again, that is another equation of heaven and hell, right? This idea of, can we control the circumstances a little bit better? So for some of us, we'll look at a situation like that as like, fuck 2020, right? Man, they implanting things into people's brains, and then they're going to control people and da, 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 da. That's a possibility. The other side of that coin is, here's a way to get people who were unable to walk. Let's just say Jacob Blake, who may be paralyzed from the waist down, right? There's work being done to potentially, and can maybe potentially, reverse that. I went to Caltech, so I know I didn't go to Cal. I was invited to Caltech, and I went to Caltech, and I was able to meet with many people in many different departments. And one of the departments was focused on basically exoskeletons and cybernetic, etc. And they already have machines that are able to to make people who've never been able to walk be able to walk. There's surgery that needs to occur and things that they tap into their spine. These people are able to walk, or this person is able to walk. But here's this technology being done within 2020 as well that will take situations where people are unable to walk, or unable to hear, or unable to see, or unable to talk, or unable, all these different ways. That can actually give them those natural capacities back. And it is that balance. That yes, there are these potentials, but then there's also these other potentials. But let's own the whole thing. Now is not the time to despair, good folks. As things go, things come, and it is a constant cycle. Right? In China right now, it's not as if coronavirus never happened, but they're balling. I mean, they're just not balling, but their life is somewhat normal to a degree, because they were able to align, and the government was able to do certain things. They did some horrific. It came at a cost. Again, it came at a hell for people. Literally can't leave your house. They lock your door from the outside, and you can't leave. They come and drop food to you, and you're in your house for months. On the other side of that, when those months subside, people are able to go back at least to a certain normality of their life, back to a certain heaven. Going through hell to get through heaven. Even in that story, he shows him hell first. Then he shows him heaven. This process of struggle, suffering to get to a better place, buried into Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, through the hell, and we'll get to this promised land, this heaven. But even when you get to that heaven, know that hell is coming right around the corner, right? In times of peace, the warrior practices for war, prepares for war. In times of war, the warrior prepares for peace. That is this balance. So don't despair. Do the work. Embrace it. Embrace it. Embrace that pain. Yes. Embrace those things. And that is a guide, is a pathway to coming out the other side. So I would say don't despair. Don't say fuck 2020. Because in 2019, people were dying. People were suffering. Things were happening. In 2018, people were dying. Things were suffering. And even on our side, there's the quote of that's going around that your black friends are tired. I don't think you should be tired. I think you should be 100% energized and hopeful and working and moving towards. And don't think that this is a one-sided thing, right? There are people that are suffering all over the world. There are people that are losing people all over the world. Even the people that we hate, right? The people that are dead set against us are catching L's, right? On their side as well. And that the hell is a universal hell. And the heaven is a universal heaven. It may be experienced at different times for different folks, but it is consistent. It is one of those things that you can bet on. And that even as things as great and grand and as immovable as Bill Cosby and R. Kelly, right? Or Jerry Falwell Jr., right? Or what's his name? Fox News, right? These things that just look impenetrable, and their times have come. Their heavens are done, and they're experiencing their hells. Right? And in their hells, they'll still find there's still a heaven to come. There's still that part of the equation to come back, which may only be if they can recognize it. Right? That is an opportunity for them to experience something like another heaven, just in a different capacity. So I would say don't despair, ladies and gentlemen. Let's beat COVID-19. Right? Let's hunker down and push this out. Recognize what it is. Do the things that we need to do. Stop trying to run from the work. Run into the work. You'd be surprised that the work isn't as hard. Work, from what I understand, certain work. Some work is hard as shit. But most work is very easy if you really lean into it. Remove the distractions. Focus on the truths of what you're there to do. That you're doing it because you want to do it. Not that you're doing it on behalf of someone else. But do the work that you are built to do. And things become very much so a heaven. Even in the face of a hell. So, that's my story. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it brought some clarity to some of you. That I don't say fuck 2020. As a matter of fact, it's not even 2020. I always kind of got to remind myself that in some calendars it's 5,267. In another calendar, it's like 8,209. This calendar over here, it's all arbitrary. But what is not arbitrary is the events that are happening within it. But those events have always happened, and they will continue to happen. Right? Always. Our heroes will be taken from us, but our heroes, again, our heroes that die well, yes, they're physically dead, right? And everybody's body will die. And we will die in ways that are unexpected. Some of us in decrepit states, some of us in accidents, some of us in crisis situations, some of us in very lovingly, very easy, nod off situations and go peacefully into the night. Some of us, our deaths will be extremely violent and extremely terrifying in those moments where we are dying. That's always happened, and it will always happen. But it's not about that. Even our heroes, when they die, they are heroes because they've lived a life which is so full that it's as if they're still here. Their works have become automated, right? Their works have become so endemic to the world, right? Their visual, their words, their the menus that they created, the books that they wrote, the stories that they told, the costumes that they wore. They'll still be here. And not in a psycho-spiritual, get the crystals out, heal my chakras type way, but in a very literal way. When you parse out what life is, what are the products of life, it is our words and our actions. And when your actions and your words and your thoughts become objects in this world, that object is very hard to kill. It can erode, it can be misplaced, it can be taken out of public view, but it's very hard to kill. That's the law of thermodynamics. Nothing ever really is destroyed. Energy is just transferred to something else. So don't despair, my good friends. For you all who don't know what I'm talking about, welcome to hell, baby. So, any questions, comments, concerns? Was it 21 Bridges? 21 Bridges was cool. It was cool after the first 10 minutes. It took them like 10 minutes to really get it together. Kind of like what was that other movie? American Hustle. Was it American Hustle? Like American Hustle took like 30 minutes. Like we was literally sitting in the theater about to leave. It was like, oh my God, what have we stepped into? But after that 30-minute mark, once they were able to introduce all the characters and get the story going, it was like, oh, this is the shit. Oh, this is the shit. I don't know if I could sit through the 30 minutes again, but when it crossed that point where all the characters and the story was introduced, I was like, this shit is kind of cold. And I felt the same thing about 21 Bridges. It wasn't, what was it, 5 Bridges or 21 Bridges? 21 Bridges. The same way I felt about 21 Bridges. When it took a little time to get there, but once it got clicking and he was able to get into his shit, the shit was kind of the shit. I ain't gonna front. It had a great story. Yeah, 21 Bridges was in New York. Ugh. What do you think about the NBA players folding after 2 days? They didn't fold. Okay, that's what you can't say about them. They didn't fold because you can't fold when you do it to yourself, right? They made that decision, right? And like I said, I always felt like when I still stand behind what I said the other day, even with me and you, Mr. Legacy Jones, our conversation that we had about the stadiums and all this other kind of stuff. I think that it is best for them to be on national television, to play the game, to make the money, to be that voice, to be amongst and weaving the narrative, right? To impress upon the children of the racist who love LeBron James, right? For them to see him speak and talk and act, right? Not to be in the shadows, to show black excellence, even in sports or in rap or in whatever you're doing. If you're pushing positive narrative, if you're not, you can move the fuck out the way. But if you are, then this isn't the time to not be seen, right? So I don't look at it as them folding. I think they sent the message that they needed to send, that, and this is the message, that we will shut this down, and we can. And sometimes that's all you need to do, right? You don't need to, again, even with the Montgomery bus boycotts, right? The Montgomery bus boycotts. Niggas didn't stop taking the bus. They got their own buses. No, but we're chasing around because people are saying folding. Like that's kind of language that's kind of going around. But yeah, in the Montgomery boycott, in the Montgomery bus boycotts, people didn't stop taking the bus. They got their own buses. They carpooled. And they did it for a year and I think 5 days or something like that. I forgot how long the Montgomery bus boycott lasted. So they stopped taking their buses. They stopped taking segregated buses. So they still got to work. Right? So still understanding that it's an alternative models. But you don't stop taking the bus, right? You still got to get to where you need to be. You still need to go to work. You still need to go to that job, to pay that money, to get that money to feed your family, right? And to be a part of that economic machine, right? Now, if there was a general strike and people stopped going to work, think of those I think they did, those Memphis sanitation workers who Martin Luther King went to go speak to and where he died. They was like, we're going on strike. There's no garbage for no one. Not picking up none of your trash. And I will also remind you, to people that say they need to start their own league. They'll still be playing basketball, which was invented by a white man. You'll never be able to escape the benefits that we provide to each other. Our co-realities, our cohabitations. If we're allowed to participate, everybody rises. Right? Everybody rises. The person who invented it, the people who hate us, the people who love us, everybody rises. Right? If we're able to participate on the other side, we rise. It's about rising. That's what it's about. It's about making things more efficient, making things more valuable. And while I'm at it, shout out to Mr. Legacy Jones, Monsa Community, shout out Jill Raouf, Pistol Pixie, Reef, Smokey the Ghost, our resident panel of experts here at is the hip hop police real? Yes, the hip hop police are real in New York. I remember one time we were in New York for a concert and these bitch niggas, actually they cool, but they was hoes for this. They mistaked. We were leaving, broke no laws. The search was 1,000% illegal, but my fucking shack. They pulled over my van leaving the concert because I think they thought Little Durk came to my show after his show. He was in New York at the same time, and so they followed the van, pulled us over, and then searched the van, and it was the dude it's like the hip hop police dudes. And I was telling them, like, my whole family's law enforcement. Do what you need to do. There's nothing there, right? Even if it was, this search is wild illegal. And like I know this search, but sitting there talking to them, like, yeah, I'll get out the van, sure, because you got the guns. So we're gonna get out the van and rock. But the reason that they got out of the van because of Shaq, you son of a bitch. Well, yeah, let me take that back. Shaq, you punk motherfucker. Shaq ass. Y'all remember Shaq? My big security. This motherfucker Shaq. They asked Shaq for his license because he driving. Shaq ass hands them his FOI card, which is a gun card, right? Which is here nor there. It just shows that you're legally, in Illinois, we have to have a FOID card. Issued by the Illinois State Police, where it gives you you can't just like in different places, California, you can just go in with your license or your state ID and buy guns. In Chicago and Illinois, you can't do that. You gotta have in Chicago, I don't think you can do that shit at all. But in Illinois, you gotta have this separate card called a FOID, where you're able to go in firearms owner identification, whatever the fuck. I don't even know if that is what it means, but you got to have this separate card, and it looks like a license, has your picture on it, the whole thing, and but it's not. It's specifically for guns. So Shaq ass hands these niggas his FOID card. I don't know if he's like, I thought it was my license. I don't know what the fuck he was trying to do. We clowned this nigga for weeks after this happened, but because he did that, it made them, I guess, think, oh, he's trying to prove that he's got a gun or some shit like that, because you're not allowed to carry guns no matter where you're from in the city of New York. You have to like hide that shit in the bushes or like, whatever, find somebody to give it to, or before you come into the city limits, because you can't have guns in New York. Or I guess in that county, I don't know how it works. But anyway, we didn't have any guns. We never traveled with, we might not travel with guns. Pull up and find out, nigga. But that time we didn't have any guns, right? And even though if Shaq showed him that, it was still legal. It isn't like he's showing you a proof of his illegal weapons. But for them, I guess it gave them a certain edge. Like, yo, man, these niggas want to have some guns in here. And so we all got out the car, sitting there talking to him, and telling him, like, my sister's fucking homicide detective, my brother is this, but even with all that said, I'm not Little Durk. And at the other side of the equation, this whole search is illegal. Like, you have no probable cause. From the time you stopped us, you have no reason to pull us over. We didn't run any lights. We didn't do anything. And as much as you think that you're dealing with a goofy ass nigga, you'll be getting calls from people who you've never got calls before in your fucking life. Right? But it didn't even have to go there. It wasn't even that confrontational. But it was that situation where it was like, yeah, even with all of this said, nigga, you could find 1,000 pounds of cocaine in this car right now. All that shit is getting thrown out. Probable cause, nigga, you have none. But that just shows you, the hip hop police, they do exist, and it was the dude who pops up as the hip hop police when you watch Vlad or some shit like that. It was the same dude. And there was a bunch of officers there. I'm looking at them like, y'all. And I told him, I was like, y'all know it's somebody getting robbed right now, somewhere in New York. Somebody getting raped and robbed and shot, unfortunately, or stabbed, or there's a domestic violence call, and you niggas is out here doing this goofy shit with 8 cars and all of this other old stupid shit. This isn't even Dirk's van. Like, where's your surveillance team? Like, who's actually watching shit? You niggas just posting up like y'all. It was the stupidest shit I've ever seen. So as much as the hip hop police do exist, You know, if you're on your shit, they're just there to really instigate, and they think that all rappers run with dirty niggas, so they might luck up on somebody with a warrant or somebody with this. But if somebody's in your crew and they're dirty or they have a warrant, don't travel with them. Especially to New York. Leave them niggas in New Jersey. Leave them in Philadelphia before you even get into the state, and just chill. Let them chill out in some hotel, and then on the way back, pick them niggas up. Because the hip hop police will look at rapper caravans, and if you got a guy who has a warrant or has some type of record or whatever the fuck, they really do that knowing that if we roll a dice, we're gonna find somebody in here, you know, or some shit like that. They're gonna find some weed or some stupid shit. But travel clean as you possibly can, and understand that when you're going into certain localities and municipalities, that they have there's a target on your back for that Sprinter van with the rappers in it who just left the club. These niggas will follow you. So take that into consideration. You know? What's up, Tony Baker? What's the question? Lupe, would you do an interview with Vlad TV? Absolutely not. I think Vlad, and I have my issues with Vlad, some personal, some professional with Vlad, and his crew. If it's not him, it's the people that work for him or whoever the fuck, but he's the leader. It's his name is on the shit, so he takes the responsibility for it. Vlad has done some fuckboy shit to me, and he's done some fuckboy shit to other dudes in the space. But I really do think Vlad is the police. As a person with police in my family, I really believe that Vlad is the police. And either is being paid by the police or is working with the police in some capacity. He's an asset, even if it's not that. Unconsciously, he's an asset for the police. I spoke on this. Did I speak on this the other day? I didn't, but for y'all that don't know, police departments have social media departments. Well, all they do is watch social media. That's how they police. They police through social media. So they'll watch accounts. They're following you. They're in there commenting, yeah, show us the pistol. And your stupid ass like, yeah, I'm going to show. They want to see this money. Right? They got bought the whole shit. And you think that you entertaining young white kids in Nebraska who want to be gangsters or niggas who live on the next block, and you're entertaining Sergeant Commando down at Precinct 4. And that's the nigga who's commenting on your fucking page. Again, being an unconscious asset to the police. And I think that Vlad plays that role. And I think he's incentivized because his platform makes a lot of money. And those are the stories that people want to hear, right? They want to hear the salacious bullshit. People are fascinated with crime and people breaking the law, and they want to live vicariously through that. And I think the police recognize that, and that they're watching his channel, right? And they're looking for dudes, and it may be that the dudes on it, hopefully they're smart enough, if they're actually actively being criminals, they're smart enough to know what to tell Vlad and what not to. Give him a little bit of bullshit. Give him a little bit of kind of the truth. Talk about their old cases that they already beat. You know, because you can be a serial killer, murder a bunch of motherfuckers, write a book, and tell your story and make money, right? Unless it's an injunction on you being able to do that to profit off of your crime, because there's a thing like that. But some cases, when you serve your time and you get out, man, you could write the book, sell the movie rights, do the story, all kinds of shit. But all the goofy shit you done did. Frank Lucas, for example, different folks who profit off of their crimes in a legal capacity. So hopefully they have the cognizance and understanding that the feds might be watching or the police might be watching, but they're not saying anything that's going, because they got to have evidence. You can't just have the story. Like, you can't say, man, I shot 12 niggas, right? And they're going to be like, well, you know, where's the guns? Who did you shoot? Where's the murders? They got to corroborate it. They got to find the weapon. They got to do all that shit to do that case. And they just like, you know what? We'd rather focus on cases where we actually got a gun and we actually got a body and we just need to look for someone. And then but niggas will and can incriminate themselves and build a narrative to give the police, who may not have been thinking that way, to think about it like, oh shit, I didn't even know that they was doing that shit. Right? Or we think that things just need to happen overnight. The police will sit on you for years. Especially the feds. The feds will sit on you for years until they get everything that they need. And normally the feds don't come until the case is already beat. They're coming to you for a deal. Like, look, nigga, we already got you dead to rights. Do you want to take this 100 years, or you want to take this 20 years, or this 4 years, or whatever? And it might not even be that you have to snitch, right? It might not even be that. It might be another way to work out the deal, where you cooperate in some other manner, or whatever the deal you work out with your lawyer, using case law or other crimes or pre-existing things, and blah 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 blah. There's ways to game it, to beat it up. But at the same time, too, you know, I would never ever do an interview with Vlad, right? I would, and this goes back to the things that I said to Joe Buttons. I'd rather a black man do it to me than a white man do it to me. I'd rather, in the state of affairs in which we live, that's just where my mentality is. Because the black nigga gonna do it to you too. He's gonna get you in front of the camera to talk about crime and talk about shit you done did and talk about this and talk about that. But I'd rather a black man get that ad dollar and that money than a white man is gonna do the same thing. So for me, it's that at this stage of the game, right? I'd rather have a black Vlad profiting off the crime stories and the criminal ethics, right? And a lot of those stories, there is some redemption. There is guys who get on there and this is what they feel is their say cheese is it say cheese? I mean, Zach TV was like that. Rest in peace. There were a few dudes like that who, yes, they're telling the gritty, grimy story of the street. They're interviewing the dudes who have done it or did it or whatever. But I would rather them profit off of that shit than a white dude profit off black on black crime and black violence and black criminality. Because I could at least trust a black dude who's doing it, that he has a much closer responsibility and interface to that world where it's in his best interest to report on these things, to decrease the amount of activity like that in his community, right? That he can be held to task by his community. And then when he gets those YouTube ad dollars, that he's taking it to fund the basketball team or fund some type, or give the money to his homie to keep him out the streets versus, who knows what the fuck Vlad is doing with that shit, right? So that's my mentality. That's my thought process with Vlad. It isn't just this superficial, oh, he's the feds. It isn't that. It is that these stories will get told. Who would I rather trust this story to, and who really needs to be responsible for handling these stories, and who has a direct connection to the neighborhood and the streets in which these stories come from? And it's not fucking Vlad, right? And as much as I would love for people to not have to tell these stories, right, that they're not looked at as opportunities to promote violence or criminality in the streets, because it just makes it worse for us on the other side when we have issues like Jacob Blake and the police mentality and the way that the law is wrote and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I would rather that not be the case, right? Because it's a double jeopardy for us, right? We kill our own communities and then we wind up, causing, if it's not us that get caught, the police are going to catch someone. They might not catch the nigga who's actually doing it, but they're going to catch the nigga who look like he the nigga who going to be doing it, right? Where a real criminal nigga who actually had a bunch of guns in the car, he's just going to sit there and be like, say nothing. But the nigga who just feels entitled to say whatever the fuck he want because the police actually got him in the wrong, he's gonna wild out, and that's the nigga that's gonna get shot, and that's the nigga we're gonna be protesting for and doing goofy shit like that. So that's my piece on Vlad, and Vlad knows this shit. Like I've told Vlad to not even report on my shit. Like even if I got an album out, I don't even promote my shit because I don't want you to even twist my words. Or put up a headline to call some bullshit. Please pretend like I don't exist. I'll find a way to get to the audience that you speak to or not. Like, I'm cool. I don't need that. Right. The same way I would, on the flip side, I did an interview with Bill O'Reilly, right? On the other side, just to prove this nigga wrong. Right. Had this nigga in there defending Obama. Wasn't that shit crazy? He's like, come on, Lou, now Obama ain't that bad. I was like, what? I got him to say it. Victory for Team Black Side or some shit like that. I don't know. But again, Vlad is only as strong and relevant as the niggas who go up there and talk to him. And eventually every nigga that goes up there and talks to him realizes, or first, genuinely, some of the niggas who go up there and talk to him ain't shit off top. And I always say this, criminals ain't shit. That side of the world, when we're in that side of the world, nigga, we ain't shit. Don't get it fucked up. Don't cry for us. Don't have that empathy and sympathy for us. All that shit, nigga. like just put some money on my books and keep and etc. But nigga, please don't build me up to be motherfucking Martin Luther King, my nigga. Like, there has to be a certain limit. Realize that these the same niggas that'll put your bitch ass in the trunk. So, but even with that said, people who do go up there, you see it. People start to realize like, oh, this nigga ain't really, oh shit, that shit ain't really that cool, is it? Like, no, nigga, it's not. I'll be asking Lupe the good question. You funny. Shout out to Tony Becker, y'all, the big homie. Like, but anyway, that's enough of that. Do. No, it's not funeral parlor. It's this ain't no funeral home. It ain't the Terror Dome either. That's one of the greatest moments in the history of film, Jack. When the moms opened up them caskets, it was like, oh, that nigga said, this ain't no funeral home. 20 points if you know what that's from. In light of Chad, any thoughts on young star athletes prioritizing attending HBCUs? We talked about this before, and my advice is very open, right? I don't have I didn't go to college, so I don't have a bias towards any institution of higher learning, as they might want to call it. But what I would say to you is go where you're going to benefit the most, where you're going to maximize your skills. If you're going to be a basketball player and that's what you're going to be, and you know you like fuck school, then go to the place that will maximize your skill set as a basketball player. On the other side of the equation, whether you're black, white, Mexican, Hawaiian, whatever that is, football player, whatever it is, go to where you feel that the program is sufficient to maximize your skill set, to optimize your skill set, where you could be around the coaches and the staff and the team and the trainers and the whole shit that's going to put you in a position to be the best basketball player, best football player you can be, if that's your goal in life, right? Because the degree, you better get a degree from this school and that school. The degree is only as good as what you're going to do with it, right? At that on that part. So unless you're going to Harvard or something crazy where it's really just about the network and the status symbol that is and the doors that open. But if we're not talking about Ivy League shit and you're just talking about the general kind of schools, the top 50, top 100 schools in the nation, then you need to go based on what you're trying to maximize in. Like if you want to be a great actor or a great actress, then you go to a school that has the best acting program. You don't go to a school that has an acting program with all this extra shit. You go to the school that has the acting program that's going to maximize you as an actor or an actress. So my advice is to that. Now I know there's some people who really, really push the idea of historically black colleges and universities, and I'm with that. If you're just in terms of like general intelligence, like Howard has a great medical program or has a great whatever, right? So it has specific things that it's very good at, you're competing in terms of the intensity of the curriculum, the merit and the effectiveness of the teachers and the program and stuff like that, and then how that program actually feeds into the career that you're trying to get. And there's HBCUs that have that. There's HBCUs, historically black colleges that don't have those credentials, right? It is just a general school with different departments that do different things, right? But it isn't necessarily specialized in one field or another. Same thing with regular colleges, right? They don't have a certain specificity or a certain optimization in a certain department or a certain place. They don't have the great business school, right? Or they don't have the world-renowned culinary program or whatever the fuck it is. And if that's what you're trying to do in life, and you know that, like, I'm 18 years old and this is what I want to do, then you go to the place that gives you that at the maximum, right? And I know listen, there's tons of people who focus on HSBCUs for everything other than education, right? I get it. Cultural this, financial this, economic power this, educational base that, blah, 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 blah. But we're not talking about that, right? They're talking about very much so if you're a basketball player, right? And you want to go to the best basketball program in the country, it may or may not at the time be a historically black college. And you as an athlete, don't fuck what Lupe Fiasco has to say. Fuck what the dude just said on my on my Instagram comments. Fuck what Tony Baker has to say. That's your life. That's your craft and your love and your talent. All of, you rolling the dice up to that point where you're actually sitting at the precipice of getting a basketball scholarship, or getting that it really is, you've beat the millions of kids in grade school, high school, etc., and you're competitive and you're competing at that level, and you want to go into the next dimension. You actually have NBA potential or CBA potential or WNBA potential or European basketball potential, Israeli basketball leagues, whatever the fuck it is. And you want to be, that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life, until your knees give out or whatever the fuck, then do that. Do what you feel is best, right? But be able to turn around and explain that. Say, like, look, and people do, and you can't get mad at them for doing that, right? Like, I want to go where I can get the best program possible to be the best that I can become. And I don't want race, and I don't want kind of other aspects which I fully intellectually don't even understand. Even me, Lupe Fiasco, doesn't fully intellectually understand certain capacities of schools outside of the educational framework. But again, I did not go to college. Okay? I didn't go to college. All right? So I don't have a bias towards the effectiveness of universities and stuff like that. I knew when I go to college now, I go to Yale. So I just watch all the Yale lectures that are free and available online. And I go to MIT. And I go to different places, but online and on YouTube. So I'm YouTube University, but I choose to go to MIT, Yale, Stanford, stuff like that. But for the folks on the ground, go where you feel is best to maximize as an athlete. Now they said athlete, not just if you're just generally into education, you just want to go to school and get a degree in communication or get a degree in whatever. Then yeah, and you're not really interested in a specific thing, and a historically black college is there, and they're giving you a scholarship or they're giving you some type of financial benefit, or you want to move to Georgia, you want to move to the South or whatever the fuck it is, and you want to be a part of that cultural tradition and expanding that and blah, 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 then do it, right? Do it. That should be your first set of choices, right? But if you're not just a general practitioner of education and you're actually going for a very specific thing, say it be chemical engineering or law or something like that, then I think you need to expand your horizons to beyond just the cultural ramifications of a specific educational unit. That's what I would say, right? Don't fuck yourself trying to be black. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to do that. You already black. You good. You don't need to go to a HSBCU to be more black. My nigga, if you was born black, you good. You ain't got to march. You ain't got to get a fucking kente cloth kufi. You ain't got to wear dashiki, nigga. You don't even have to go to the library and get autobiography of Malcolm X. Nigga, you're good. You black, you good. You ain't got to keep doing all this extra shit to prove that you black to some niggas who don't even give a fuck, right? With that said, don't get caught into that trap, right, of discounting your potential for the sake of trying to be black. Because once you get out of Howard, niggas are not going to give a fuck when you get out of Howard if you went to Howard or not. Unless only to motherfuckers who went to Howard. The nigga in Walmart does not give a fuck. He's like, oh yeah, I went to Illinois State. Oh yeah, I went to Howard. He's like, oh yeah, okay. You gonna need that cornbread? Like that shit? Trust me, bro. Go to wherever the fuck you feel you need to go. To get the highest level of education optimized around your specific wants in life and rock out like that, right? But for those folks who are very specific and, again, pointed at what they want to do. But you folks who have no idea what the fuck you want to do and you're just interested in the general education and you're going to figure it out when you get to school type shit, then yes, go to a HSBCU. And then once you go through that, make the cultural decision. Have fun. And then after that, if you feel like, oh, I want to refine this thing, then you'll find yourself going to a master's program or a postgraduate program somewhere else anyway, right? To really get the fine tuning and fine training, a different business. You might go to Wharton, or you might go to the School of Business Management, or at what is it? University of Chicago or University of Illinois, whatever it is. You might find yourself in a postgraduate situation anyway. And your HSBCU was just meant to historically black colleges and universities, whatever. Nigga, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. And that may just be your foundation from a cultural standpoint. And then once you get that foundation from a cultural standpoint, and you're creating more of that allegiance, producing more and more graduates from the HSBCUs, when you want to refine that communications degree or get that business degree, which the Wharton is crushing, in terms of business management and on-ramps to career. They're crushing HSBCUs, like destroying that shit. Like you wouldn't even think about the shit, but they're also crushing everything else. They're crushing Temple, and they're crushing fucking Xavier, and they're crushing fucking Alabama State and Texas A&M, destroying that shit. You're going to find a program that's going to refine at the highest levels of what you want to do. So there's also that opportunity to, like, yes, do your bachelor's at a HSBCU, but then when you're interested in your master's or your PhD or your doctorate, if you're going to stay in school that fucking long, it might behoove you to find a more concentrated, more focused program. But as an athlete, go to where you feel you need to go in those first few years to make yourself the best athlete you can possibly be. All right, and it may or may not be at a HSBCU. Historically black schools, college, HSBC, that's the bank, right? Yeah, historically black college and university, HBCU. Yeah, HSBCU is a bank, bitch. I just said it. Get off my back. Keep pressing that like that's the moral of the story. You know what the fuck I'm talking about. Thoughts on Jacob Blake being handcuffed to the hospital bed is fucked up, is what it is, my G. Especially if he's paralyzed. Where the fuck is he gonna go? But to the police's credit, it is true that if you're under arrest, they're gonna handcuff you to that fucking bed. That's just their protocol. You could be shot, you could be stabbed, you could be whatever the fuck. You go in there and see one of your homies. They might, in some cases, they might not even let you go see them, because they are under arrest. People leave prison to go to surgeries. They'll take them to a hospital, like whatever correctional facility, and them niggas will be handcuffed the whole fucking time, right? They might not be handcuffed during surgery, but in those moments they will be handcuffed. So it isn't something that's like out the norm. It's just insensitive knowing the narrative that's in the space right now, right? People are unaware of what he did, what the story, and nobody knows anything about Jacob Blake at this point other than he was shot in the back. He was walking to his car, but we don't know what the fight was about. We don't know why he was there. We don't know why he got arrested. That shit is still like, and the police are kind of throwing out little hints that I don't even want to repeat, but they're throwing out shit where it's like, he had a warrant. Like, oh shit, didn't know that. When the fuck was y'all gonna tell us that? Right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it is police protocol for black, white, Mexican, whoever the fuck you are. If you're under arrest, and you're being charged with a crime and you're in a hospital, they will lock your ass up. They will shackle you to the bed. That's just what it is. It's just insensitive in this case because of the wider narrative and because of his physical condition. But there are motherfuckers who are shot. They'll put handcuffs on a dead man, right? At the scene. Like if they kill a motherfucker, they will still handcuff the body in certain situations. Even if you're sitting there shot and bleeding out, they'll put handcuffs on you because there is an understanding that the human beings are still capable of putting, it's fucked up. Human beings, even shot, wounded, are even more dangerous. Because there's a certain desperation and they still might have a gun. They still might have weapons. They still might have whatever. But it's even when you think about to the extremes, there's cases where police will handcuff a dead body. Like that body's dead. They'll put handcuffs on that motherfucker because you never know. He might not be dead. He might just jump up. And y'all seen that thing where they tased the dude? They tased him and the motherfucker was like, stop beating up the motherfucking police. He was acting the whole time. Fuck these niggas up. So there's that aspect of it. So I wouldn't, me personally, I wouldn't get mad at that really deeply. You know, I would still focus on what's the whole story, right? We want the whole story. The cuffing him to the bed shit is normal police protocol that may be abnormal in the state, but it's actually not abnormal at all. Like they'll do that shit to a dead body, right? Be a dead body, they're dead with handcuffs on it, right? Just to secure the scene or secure the body. That's just part of their protocol. Does every police station do that? Probably not. There's some motherfucker like, man, take them cuffs off that body, nigga. What the fuck is wrong with you? But other folks, they never know. You're not pronounced. You can be pronounced dead at the scene, but it does require some type of medical situation because the motherfucker will get up, right? So I wouldn't get mad at that part. I would still stay focused on the whole story. Okay. That's just Wasalu Jaco's opinion. But again, they took the cuffs. They took the cuffs. They took the cuffs off of him. So that was good. But the reason that they said that they took the cuffs off of him because he had a bond. So it wasn't that they took the cuffs off out of sensitivity. They took the cuffs off him because they had a bond and he was no longer under arrest. Just to reiterate that part. How many white women they handcuff after they execute? I would just tell you this, Ashley. We're not white, and you're just opening yourself up to a continuous. What about? By constantly comparing yourself to how they treat white folks. I'm sure that they cuff white dead bodies too. Like, I don't think they just reserve that for black people. And in certain cases, they don't handcuff the body at all. But it is protocol, whether you're white, black, Mexican, whatever the fuck. You could be sitting there with a bullet in your head and an axe in your fucking back, handcuffed to the fucking bed or handcuffed to the wall. Like, that's just part of the program. But the constant, like, well, did they do that for white people? I don't fucking know. Does it matter? Right? I'm not white. Actually, I'm not under arrest. There's a certain where you kind of gotta push yourself away from the emotional trigger so you can focus on the information of the circumstance at hand. And you're not in that situation, right? You're not white, so they're not going to treat you like that. And in some cases, you know it's racist. They're going to treat white people differently. But in the same cases, you better believe the police will beat the dog shit out of a white boy. It may not be on because you saw tape where they let this one nigga go and they shot this nigga or they tripped this one nigga and did that to one nigga. There's a bunch of shit out. I've seen a tape where the white girl was running and they tased her. She got hit and just split her shit. She fell and hit the ground and just bust her shit. She was white. You know, you better believe white boys get their shit tore off too by the police. It isn't just some black shit. But you should be mad at all of that, right? That's the thing. You should be mad at it all, right? When it happens to a white person, when it happens to a black person, whatever. And even if it's a situation where, in the moment where you don't know what this person is being convicted of, or what they're being charged with, or what the crime is, because you never know. The camera starts filming once the police get there. You don't know what the fuck happened before it happens, right? And you know, there's video. This is the other funky part. There's video where it's not police video. It's like people, and there's no police at all. And you see you see two niggas. I saw this video the other day. It was fucked up. I guess one dude had a Draco, another dude had a pistol. Something happened. It just comes on in the parking lot. He walks around the car. He pointing the gun at him. Dude they both strapped. Dude, I guess he put the gun down because he want to scrap. Soon as he put the gun down, dude blow his shit back with the Draco. Pop, pop, pop. Like, damn. So it's that other side of, like, a lot of crazy shit gets caught on tape and you don't know what happened. We don't know if dude raped his sister. We don't know if dude came up and... There's this one video of the dude in Atlanta. Did y'all see that? The one where the dude was at the mall and he had the backpack and he got into an altercation in the mall and he had a backpack. His backpack he pulled a full Draco out of his motherfucking backpack. Was like waving it around. The police came, took the gun, put him in cuffs. Seconds later, or however long later, they take the cuffs off of him, give him the gun back. The nigga puts the shit in his backpack and leaves. All black. The cop was black. Everybody's black. This nigga just pulled a fucking Draco out of his backpack at the mall. Like, back up, niggas. Police came, put the nigga in cuffs, figured out what was going on, took the gun, and then gave this big ass gun back to this nigga, and he walked out. What do you choose to focus on? When the video is just shocking and it feels like it's against you, or do you focus on the videos where it's completely not the case? Do you focus on the video where the police just pulled the trigger? Do you focus on the part of the video where this dude was whooping that cop's ass? Right? Do you think black children are being influenced to resist more, and that is deadly? No, I don't think that. I don't think that at all. I think it's just we have an understanding. We've been trained through movies, through films, through video cameras, through Rodney King, through this, through that, through the narrative of the relationship with the police, the narrative that they say, the shit that comes out of police officers' mouths, the police chiefs around in little towns and countries all over the fucking world, the little hick towns with 6 niggas on the force and they pulling over every car that comes through the bitch looking for niggas. Like, that whole narrative is real. And in some cases, it's the reverse, where kids recognize, which is even worse than resisting more. It's that you don't resist at all, right? Because resistance for you means death, right? The resistance for you means getting your ass beat. The resistance from you means getting dope put on you, or getting a fucked up case, or whatever. Even if you can throw all that shit out, you get a lawyer to come throw the shit out and beat the case and do all that. You got to spend 50 grand, 100 grand to fight this bullshit charge for this bullshit cop who gonna sit in court and lie. The judge is gonna believe him because it's in the judge's best interest to believe this nigga. Like, that shit, like, that's part of the process in the program. And I think that becomes where kids are just like, I don't even want to deal with that shit. Nigga, hands up, I'm on the ground. Just do whatever the fuck you need to do so we can get the fuck over. That's for people that ain't dirty. Now, if you dirty, like you actually got the guns and you got the dope and you got, which is a reality for niggas. If you got the warrant, like for me, when I went to jail, I was driving and I didn't know that my license was suspended, right? And the police pulled me over. It was one time I went to jail. And the police pulled me over way out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Police pull me over. I'm in a Range Rover. In a Range Rover in the town. Well, it's some people with money, but not. It ain't like niggas is just haphazardly running around. So you got this young black man in a fucking Range Rover. I was speeding. I was doing like maybe like 70, 80, something like that. But the reason I was speeding was it was April. It was what's that holiday? St. Patrick's Day. It was St. Patrick's Day. And I remember telling the cop, like, you know, I was speeding because I want to get off the streets. I don't drink, you know, but I know it's about that time where niggas the bars is letting out and motherfuckers finna be out here. I just want to, you know, put an extra 10 miles on the speedometer so I can get to the fucking crib so I can be out the way. You know, I don't want to be turned over in the ditch or just a motherfucker that ran me off the road because he's drunk. Which is real. And it's like, I'll take that L. If you catch me, you caught me, I'm not finna lie about the shit. That's what happened. But this is why. I'm trying to get off these drunk motherfuckers out on the street. Other than that, nigga, I'm staying on 65, 70, right? Even now, when I drive at a certain rate, I actually put on my cruise control and just like, we're doing 75, nigga, the whole way there. But them niggas is doing 100. Fuck them niggas. Go ride with them then. So when he pulled me over, you know, I told him, he's like, where you going? It's like, yo, I'm going home. I stay out this way, blah, blah, blah. You know, he's like, why you speeding? I was like, you know, I'm trying to get home. Like, this St. Patrick's Day, I don't want to be out on these fucking streets. He's like, all right, cool. So when he ran my license, brought my license back, he's like, yo, your license is suspended. You got to come with me. And I was like, oh, shit. And I didn't even know my license was suspended. And the reason I didn't know is because my mail was going to like a different house or some shit like that. So when it came up that my license was suspended, I think it was for some speeding ticket or some shit like that. I don't know, some bullshit. But it was whatever. It wasn't nothing crazy. But even they suspended my license and I didn't get notice. And if I'd have got notice, I would have actually went through the process of getting my shit together. Like, so he's like, but you got to come with me. He's like, I can't let you drive. I was like, all right. But I was like, yo, can I have my peoples come get the car? Versus you having to tow it or do some shit with it. He's like, yeah, cool. So he let my peoples come. They came. We sitting there for a while. They come. They get the car. He's like, but you got to go to jail. I was like, all right, cool. Once it became that I was arrested, the whole shit changed. Like, it was like, they got to go through the process of searching you. Then they could grab me strong as hell, did all this other goofy shit. But he doesn't know. Like, nigga, I've been in situations where police had pistols to my head and all kinds of shit. So I'm like, this ain't shit. But anyway, he you know, he put me in cuffs, take me to the jail. They searched me at the jail, blah, 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 blah. And then, you know, I bail out immediately. You know, I'm like, where we at? That's the thing. Swipe, blah, 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 blah. You got your credit card, you pay the shit right there, you bounce, right? And the whole time, and when he's searching me, this is the crazy part. So, you know, they got to take all your shit off when they process you. He taking off Rolexes and motherfucker. He's saying like, oh shit, like this one, like who the fuck are you? I was like, you know, none of your fucking business type shit, right? But he's seeing like, oh, and I'm just like, it is. I understand process, bro. Like this ain't shit. My last chain got took by the police, so I'm not even worried about this, right? I'll get my property back. I ain't worried. Let's just get this shit done so you can get out, get to where you need to do, da, da, da. And after that, this is why I brought up warrants and shit like that. After that, once they let me go, I went home. I didn't drive for 3 months because my license was suspended. Right? Not even on some like, man, niggas can't tell me what to do, Joe. Not that I'm afraid of the police. None of that. It's like, man, I'm not authorized to drive, so I'm not going to drive. I'm going to follow the law. Right? And I'm going to just do everything I need to do to fast track to get my fix whatever situation happened to get my motherfucking license back and get my shit reinstated. And it took 3 months. And that whole 3 months, I didn't drive. Versus niggas who get their shit took and then it's like, yeah, man, but I got to get to work, Joe. Fuck that, man. And they just constantly racking up the bullshit, and then you're not aware of what's happening, and you think the police on some bullshit with you, but it's like, nigga, you ain't even supposed to be driving. Right? Now you playing the don't get caught game, right? And eventually you're gonna lose. So any minor infraction, any other shit that you got, like if you're not supposed to be driving, my nigga, don't drive. If your license is suspended, don't drive. I don't give a fuck how important I got to get to the daycare center. Nah, nigga, because if they catch you, you ain't gonna be able to go to the daycare center for 6 months. Because you're gonna be in fucking jail, right? So it's those little micro decisions that people need to take into consideration, which will completely remove you from the equation, right? If you got warrants, my nigga, don't be riding around. Go figure out your warrant. Go fix that shit, right? And if it requires you having to do some time, or who knows what's gonna happen, but they might get that shit thrown out. Whatever way it's gonna inconvenience you, right? Is worth doing it versus having some motherfuckers doing some goofy shit. And to extend the favor, here's another crazy ass story that I had. I had an issue with one of my vehicles, and I anytime some shit happened with me and I'm dealing with niggas that's not gangsters, I call the police. If you a gangster, me and you finna have a conversation. But when it's just regular civilians and shit, like I get the police involved immediately, right? Just to be there to watch and mediate and de-escalate. And I know I'm not finna be that. What do something for this nigga? Do something for that nigga. That's not me. I'm like, yes, officer. What else would you like? Would you guys like some coffee? Like, would you like a coffee? Well, you want a coffee? You want cream and sugar in that bitch? Look, I got the best cream you've ever had, right? I'm that lame. But when it's some gangster shit, it's like, nigga, what'd you say? Yeah, let's fight right now. But anyway, I had a situation with one of my vehicles, and I was talking to the police about it, and he was like, if you don't know if the situation that you're speaking about is accurate, if we put it into, or it's the reality on the ground right now, if we put in what we can put in, if we find somebody with in that space, we coming with the guns out. Right? Like, as soon as we spot it, it don't matter who the fuck is in that or around it, we coming with the pistols out. And off top, bam, pistols out. And he was like, you can approach it that way, or you can let us, do a little bit of investigation, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. No. I mean, it was what it was. But it was really that off top. Well, he told you straight up, man, if we pull up on this thing like this, we coming with the guns out. And what that could mean potentially for somebody is like, whoever is in that spot, is them niggas worth dying over your shit? Because it could go to that. It could go to a motherfucker feeling a certain way and we got to put this motherfucker down. And it was like, you know what? Nah. Let's just figure out, let's exhaust this first layer. And then if we exhaust this first layer, then if we don't find enough of that, then, do this other shit, because then you left me with no choice. But if I got a choice, if a nigga telling you like, there is these two options, one of these is a little less aggressive, it's just going to take a little bit more time, versus this other option, well, we coming in with the pistols drawn and, we ready to shoot some shit. It's you, when I say extending that courtesy. It may be that maybe you ain't got a warrant, you in the right, you're the victim. But you can put things into play that get niggas killed. Get niggas put in situations that get them shot, that get them fucked up, that get them harassed, that get them executed, that get them tased, that get them beat up, that get them, they might have a warrant and shit like that. And they may be like, man, this warrant ain't worth you getting your ass whooped. I ain't want the police to come and beat your motherfucking ass, or, I know you of a certain temperament and you gonna flare up on the motherfucker, they gonna gun your ass down. And sometimes people put people in situations that they know and it's up to you to like, and I'm not saying that you should, I'm saying that you should, if that's an option, to understand that that's part of the equation. If you really feel that the shit out here is as fucked up as niggas are perceiving it to be, right? Like, this shit's so fucked up, fuck the police, da-da-da-da-da. If you feel that that's the case and everybody who gets pulled over gets shot, then, or the police on some bullshit every time they pull you over, then yeah, do that shit. But just understand that another part of that equation, this is coming from somebody who was a fucking grand larceny detective for 15 years and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, major cases and shit like that. And he told me, he's like, look, if we do it this way, we coming with the pistols out. If we do it this way, it'll be a little bit more investigated, be mild peaceful, and then we could work it out a little bit more civilly. But if we go down this route, nigga, we coming with the guns, right? And it's like, man, do I want to put a nigga in a position where he got guns to his head? I've had a gun to my head from the police, trigger finger motherfucker sitting there looking at me laughing and shit. And I'm just kind of like, I don't want to put nobody else through that, and it's not worth it. right? Now, if you got a domestic violence situation where this motherfucker is routinely come around and whoop your motherfucking ass, dead him at the door, right? Work that nigga up at the door, right? Bring the police, and the police will gladly come and fuck a nigga up. Don't get it fucked up. You got a domestic problem, the cops will pull up and be like, this nigga, he slapped you, huh? Okay, go in the other room, and they'll work this nigga in the living room on your behalf, right? Do you want your baby daddy beat and broke the fuck up by the police though? Is the question. If the nigga whooping upside your head and the gangsters ain't finna get him, then yeah, let the police fuck him up, and I ain't got no problem with that. Make the handcuffs too tight, hit this nigga head on the way into the car, all that shit. But other than that, if it's like some other shit where you know it could potentially escalate to some bullshit, cool. But if this nigga's on some threatening shit or he on some violent shit and he on some this, that, and the third, then yeah, bring the police in. But if it's not that, you got to take into consideration that when you make that call, because at that point the police don't know what's going on, and when you make that call, if you're not really giving them the full information and you on the phone on some, this motherfucker keep coming over, I told him he can't come over here, you hyping up the situation before they even get there. What's his name? They searching this nigga, he got a record. Oh shit, this nigga, the dispatcher's like, yo, we got a thing at dude's a repeat offender, he has a record, he has this. They pulling up with a certain level of information, but they pulling up hostile. Because you didn't painted this nigga as a criminal before they even got there. Right? And if he is one of them niggas he not a thug, but he agitated, he on his rights, he black power shit, niggas gonna turn up, feel a certain way, say some slick shit, do some sideways shit, do some goofy shit, misunderstand their rights in that circumstance, in that situation. Real nigga, right now, you're the suspect. And you need to behave like a motherfucking suspect. And you dealing with cops who may or may not be racist and a bitch, who want to take that inch and turn that bitch into a mile with a smile, right? So that aspect of it, that's just from my personal experience that I wanted to share with y'all, and that was it. The police could have turned up on me when I got chased in my Ferrari. But I was bogus though. You know, I was bogus. Like, yeah, I speeded out and dipped and jumped out the whip and was trying to walk away. That motherfucker pulled up, was like, bro, come on. Come on back here. And, you know, he banged on me. He gave me the little piece, but I was telling him, you know, he tripped. Speeding is dangerous. You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit ain't, unless you've been to traffic school. If you ain't been to traffic school and sat through that shit and really had a state police officer tell you, you know, I've seen motherfuckers get thrown out of the front windshield through holes this big. You find their body, you know, 20 feet away or some shit all cut up with glass all in their face. Like, speeding is dangerous, you know. And the faster you go, your reaction times, all of that shit like equates, and something that's really simple turns into something that's really dangerous and fucked up. So speeding in itself is a dangerous activity. As much as motherfuckers want to downplay the shit and like, man, ain't shit, but I'm just doing 80 over, you know, like that shit's dangerous, B. Like, and you in a big metal box full of gas, and if you hit a pole, that shit gonna split that bitch in half. And kill everybody in the car, and then the baby becomes a missile in the back seat and hit the mama in the head and knock her motherfucking head off, and all kinds of shit happens. So, you know, follow the speed limit, and it's easy. It's an easy thing to do. You know, you might save a couple hours or an hour versus getting there in 20 minutes or some shit like that. But nigga, getting there is gonna cost you a license and a ticket and a fucking accident and all this other shit. It's not worth it. So I learned that at traffic school. Like, you know, fuck this. Literally on some, like, I'm not even mad at the police. Like, I've never understood driving like that, because they don't teach us this shit in driver's ed, how dangerous this shit really is. And it requires a motherfucking police officer who done peeled niggas off of street poles and scooped niggas up off the ground to tell you, like, my nigga, this motherfucking speeding shit, this car will flip 100 times and burst into flames, my nigga. Like, do you want to be trapped in a car on fire with your family screaming all around you? You motherfuckers cooking that bitch because you're trying to get to the stove in 15 minutes. What the fuck is wrong with you? So, speeding and that shit is dangerous. So I understand that a police officer getting upset, niggas speeding down a residential street, 2-lane street with like, that shit ain't cool. And he was right. Like, that shit bogus. Like, I should have never did that shit. But I was in the Rari, my nigga. I was just, burn, sir. You see me, nigga. And the nigga binked on us. I knew he was coming. I was like, oh shit. Hit the side street. Literally dumped the car. Was on some like, I need to find my homie house. Trying to dip into my homie crib. Not knowing them niggas finna sit on the car. And as soon as I come back to that bitch, he gonna bang me anyway. Because it's a fucking Ferrari. It's the only, I wonder which car it is on this block of Hyundais. He's really disguised this car. Got no idea. Drat. He's like, maybe it's the big red Ferrari right there next to the fucking, oh yeah, maybe it is that one. You know, the car that I seen speeding the other time and got a perfect look at this nigga with the glasses. So when he banged me, and then you know, but it was one of those situations again where it's like, man, you know, I'm going to, you know, sell this car. So that's the reason I don't have XYZ. And he was like, oh, okay, cool, blah, 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 blah. Right? The fuck is they doing? And he's like, all right, cool, got you. But still, he banged me. And I still had to go through the processes and shit like that. He could have banged me even worse, but it was, you know, it is what it is. I learned my lesson. So now I'm that guy that's very much so by the book. Yeah, but speeding is fucked up and it's dangerous. And I actually don't think that shit is cool at all. Simply because, and now if I do speed, like I'm like on a road trip and it ain't nobody around, right? Or some shit like that, right? But even that, you got to take into consideration that shit happens in an instant. Tires blow out, motherfucking niggas hit the brakes, shit run out onto the road, and you want to give yourself as much opportunity to not die in a ball of fire as you possibly can. And sometimes speeding limits your options. And if the police catch you, the police sit specifically to catch niggas, you know, and bang them on a speeding ticket. And now you got to go back to court to you got to go back to a whole nother state to go to court. You forgot about the shit. Now they didn't put a warrant out for you because you didn't show up for that speeding ticket because you was like, fuck them niggas. Even though they gave you your license back and all that shit, you still had to show up to court or do something to process the shit. You just forgot about the shit because you was like, fuck 12. And now when you niggas is riding back through Pennsylvania, them niggas bank you and you got a warrant in Philly and your ass is gone. Say, come on vacation, leave on probation. Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it works sometimes. So we'll take one more question and then we'll bounce up out of here. Oh, that's a good question. Hold on, let me see if it's a better one. Oh, it's actually a couple, but I'll try and rock through these very quickly. Can you explain the importance of the per capita perspective? I mean, per capita is somewhat of an average, right? It's not like the real count. And because of that, if you try and build things off of the per capita, it's kind of like an easy way. It's easier than having to do the full count. So you just do per capita, you get a sense of what the general understanding is. But because of that, it's not fully specific. It is not fully objective. It is somewhat subjective. There's some looseness in it, and because of that, it can be interpreted in different ways, and it is somewhat of a distortion. So you're operating off a distortion. So there's a recognition that you can't get a full count or something or a full understanding. So you operate you try and get to the optimal or the most beneficial for a certain, in terms of the trade-off. Like the per capita is the most beneficial. Where as long as we can get 70% or 80% of it, of a certain level of accuracy or precision, that's good enough, right? There's still enough there. We don't have to hit bullseyes every single time. But it is a distortion. And so things will fall through the cracks. And the per capita is based on a very frozen date, meaning it's this particular period of time, without taking in consideration that there will be fluctuations, and there's even constantly fluctuations on a day-to-day, minute-to-minute basis. There's tons of fluctuations, so that number can shift in extreme cases very wildly, right? The day before is the day before, the day after is this, that, right? So it's a constant fluctuation. So it is somewhat of trying to freeze on a moment and then operate off that moment. But if you choose the wrong moment, it may not be fully representative of the trend of where it's going, and people get fucked like that. So again, a lot of politics, a lot of business, a lot of that is never focused on the extremes, right? It's always focused on kind of the middle, the median, the middle ground. But that in itself still can be somewhat of a distortion, or it can set you up for a certain level of failure, because the mean or the middle is what's most important now, there can be coalitions of the extremes which can come into play as well to affect the value, the importance, or whatever of that middle ground. So you have to take into consideration that the per capita should never be taken as the leading metric to go off something with. You still need these to be aware and cognizant of these other elements that go into it. There was another one. Where's that guy? Nope. Where's the one that he's? Where is it? Oh man, I lost it. Will you be taking the vaccine, Lupe? Yes, I will be taking the COVID-19 vaccine when it comes through. Yes. But that's not even what I want to pick. I picked that on accident. How can one accept that we will continually live in a state of chaos and still live holistically? Stop trying to live holistically. That's the piece. Stop trying to do it. Holistic is finding a balance, and some of that balance you have no control over. It's the things you have to accept, right? So it's not necessarily about trying to live holistic, because living holistically is different from person to person. Everybody has a different level of homeostasis, and everybody has a different completeness and a different fullness, and being whole to one person might just be 50% of another person, blah, 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 blah. So you have to kind of have a knowledge of self to the degree that you understand what you actually want and what you actually need, and then finding that balance. But sometimes that balance of, sometimes that there's a certain trap in trying to live holistically, because it's really, you're trying to live a biased life. You're trying to ignore certain things, right? And holisticness is, in some definitions, is to ignore this side of the equations and just focus on the things that make you feel good. Whereas no, there's something to focus on the things that make you feel bad, right? Certain things that make you feel like shit. And then what are those things? What are the dirty things? So for instance, the opposite of that is the ascetics. There's the ascetic Hindus, these sadhus, who just completely embrace disgusting shit. Like they'll eat shit, they clean with dead bodies, like all kinds of shit. Like they just do the extreme. They completely embrace all of the negative, bad shit and bring all that shit around them. To completely just embrace all of the fucked up shit. And for them, that's living holistically, right? Can be looked at as a holistic lifestyle to just completely embrace all the bad shit, have no possessions, live out in the elements, starve, all that shit. Whereas we may think that living holistically is like have a nice 3-course meal and eat vegan and do this and don't clean your house and do that and wear this type of clothing and wear bright this and don't be naked and don't be mean to people and don't, give people respect in this way, blah, 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 blah. But so you just got to be what is fit for you, I would say. Don't force yourself into a mold that's not really built for you. Trying to be holistic. Could you? No. Where's the one? I want to do this one and I want to go. Where is it? A lot of questions today. Thank you all for your questions. I think it was this. What will it take? This was the question, and we'll end on this. What do you think it will take for black people to vote with their brains and not their emotions? That's making an assumption that all black people only vote with their emotions. That's not true. So the premise of that question is somewhat invalid because that's not the case. That's the assumption that's what most black people do. A lot of black people vote the compromise, right? They know what it is. Politics are bundled together. So there's tons of issues bundled in with good shit and fucked up shit and compromises and this and that. And it's really not for you. It's built, a lot of policy sometimes is built towards getting the swing voters, at least in national elections, right? But on more local elections and state legislatures and shit like that, it might be a little bit more focused and different. But in terms of what's really about the policy versus the wider, grander, per capita type size things. So I would say that first, understand that most black people aren't doing that. I wouldn't say most, but all black people aren't doing that. That's too big of an assumption. The other side of that equation is that sometimes the emotional force is, again, you need information before emotions. But you need emotions. It's like only information, only brains. That gets you fucked up too. You gotta speak to people's wants and needs because people will take an L, right? They'll take a loss to make sure that you don't succeed. And that's purely emotional. Like it has nothing to do with rationality. It has nothing to do with that shit. So it does become that you have to have the emotional fortitude for when something comes down the pipe that if it goes through rationally, like for instance, there was this example, and I'm just pulling from lectures and stuff that I watch where dude was talking about Medicare, right? And he was talking about, well, why don't you have Medicaid? Why don't you have Medicare for all? And the problem with Medicare for all is not the problem with it is this, that the main group of people that you would need to push a Medicare for all type bill, they already have Medicare because they're over 65. Like they're a big group and they're the ones who are active and they vote and they're politically active in the sense where they'll do a call center and do all the work and write all the letters because they got the time to do the shit because they're retired and da. But they already got it. So there's really no real incentive for them to do it. And then the flip side of that equation is if you have Medicare for all, it might fuck up their Medicare because to pay for your Medicare, they might have to pull from their Medicare, right, to fund the shit. So there's an understanding of the politics that will have to take place for them to do that. So they're kind of like, they're good. So the block that would actually be active to push things like that through, they don't even need the shit. So it's like, what do you need to do to pull them into the conversation? But it goes before that, where it becomes that picking 65. I think Medicare passed in 1965, and they picked the years. The 65 is the date that people would be eligible for Medicare. It was somewhat of I don't want to call it purely arbitrary because it wasn't, but they could have picked 35, right? Why didn't they pick 35? Why didn't they pick 20? Why didn't they pick 6? At 6 years old, you start to get, if not free, but discounted medical and health benefits, blah, 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 blah. And there's all the other equations. But if you pull out all of the nuts and bolts and you just focus on why did they pick 65 versus another date? When it was 65, should people have said no? In 1965, should it have been like, no, it's everybody or nobody? But because people kind of made this compromise to be like, okay, emotionally we're attached to the elderly, so we're going to give it to 65-year-olds, right? And everybody under 65, you're on your fucking own type situation, right? What if you had said, okay, nobody gets it? Unless everybody gets it, right? There's an emotional narrative to that's in play that you need to be aware and cognizant of. That when a situation like that comes around, do you have the ability to clamp down on your emotions or expand your emotions beyond your rationale, right? To say, look, we fuck with the old people, but we need it for everybody and nobody gets it. Or the old people are like, you know what? Fuck us. Less. So it's these two. You need one person to be rational, and you need another person to be emotional, right? And vice versa. And those clashes and compromises and the way they mix at the interface, you kind of have to be able to manage and understand both, especially when you're dealing in political realm where all the policies are together. So it's like one vote. You can't individually vote for this and then individually vote for that and vote this out and don't do this. Like, that's just not how the politics work. All right. Just so we're clear, I'm not creating a scenario. That's actually what happened with Medicare. Like, the reason that Medicare exists is that you have, in 1965, it was, we got healthcare. Who we going to give it to? Let's give it to the people that's 65. But in hindsight, now because the people who are 65 who have it, it's very, very hard to unpeel that and give it to everybody else, right? The people that and to the point that the people that you would even need to push through a Medicare for all type bill, you would need the people that are 65 and over, because they're the ones who are the most politically active and the ones who vote and keep up all the other shit beyond voting that are engaged in the system. They don't need it because they already got it, right? They already have it. Again, this is a decision that was made before all of us were even fucking born. Medicare was enacted in 1965. And then imagine how much time they were taking to write the policy and put it together. No one had a hand and alive today that, born after 1965, had shit to do with that. So it was great for the moment at 65, but now we're at a space where you want everyone to have Medicare for all. And you're like, what about Europe? What about Canada? What about this? And it becomes, well, here's the situation we're in America. We don't live in Europe. We don't live in Canada. We live in America, and this is the situation. These are the way the demographics play out. And those people that you would need to push this shit through, they already have it. So, on that note, coronavirus is still a thing. Make sure that you're practicing physical distancing, that you wear a mask that covers the mouth and the nose. Oh, actually, you know what? One more thing. Check this shit out. This shit gonna watch this. Oh, my knees. Ugh. Oh. Bro, guess what's in this box? Guess what's in this box? Let me show y'all this box. Watch this. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Ah! Yay! My knees. Okay, so check this out. This is the latest addition to the Collezione. The Coleziones. I like to share it with y'all. We're going to have a long conversation about this, but this is... What's going on in these streets? Unboxing. First time I've seen it. Let's see what we got here in these streets. Ooh, Chanale Wale. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, it is. That's right. It's a blade. It's a blade, it's a blade, it's a blade. Oh, yeah. It's a blade. Peep game, though. It's not just any old blade. Some of y'all may not recognize this blade. Right? May not know what this comes from, but some of you might have. This, ladies and gentlefolk. Ooh, look at that sky. This is called the sky. This sword is the sword from this. Ooh, Jack. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's the sword from Lone Wolf and Cub. That's right. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The nerdy me. Remember that scene where he was like, Daigoro, I know you cannot understand my words, but you must choose. Choose the ball and join your mother. Choose the sword and join me. I know you cannot understand my words, but you must choose. Daigoro. He bounces the ball and takes the sword and stabs that hole in the ground. This is that sword, cuz. Yes. Yes, it is. Oh. I chose the sword, but the sword chose me, right? It even comes with this little knife situation. Let's break the seal first. Eesh. Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's a good blade right there, Jack. That's some good blade action. Ooh, that feels delicious. Oh, man. Ooh. So, this is going to be my main sword from here on out. Ogami Ito's Do Tanuki. Oh, we got a little issue with the... There we go. So just wanted to unbox that with y'all, for y'all. right now. Get a little glimpse of the joint that just came so I can freak out. Got a new sword. Nice. I'll tell you a story about that sword a little later on the podcast, maybe. So anyway, coronavirus is still a thing. Make sure that you're practicing social distancing. Blah, blah, blah. Coronavirus is still a thing. Make sure that you're practicing physical distancing. Wear a mask that covers the mouth and the nose. Condolences to the folks who've passed during this time. Our prayers are with you and your family. If you're sick, hope you're on the road to recovery and doing better. Unfortunately, a lot of people have COVID-19. Fortunately, a lot of people have come out the other side of COVID-19. If you're one of those folks, please share your story. You never know what people are going through and what easily for them, just a little story from you could give them a little bit more insight and guidance on what they should be taking, what they should be preparing themselves for, etc. As it comes to coronavirus and COVID-19. So if you can share your story, it's more powerful than you may think. House EP. House is myself and Kaylin Ellis. It's available right now on Spotify, Apple Music. Features Virgil Abloh, Crystal Torres, and Graham Burris on vocals. Kaylin Ellis on the beats, Lupe Fiasco on the raps. So check that out. It's the latest EP, latest album from me in that space. And that's it. Rest in peace to Chadwick Boseman. And don't forget what I said. You know what I'm saying? Peace. Much love to you.